All right, good. So let's get started. Welcome to the May New Mexico Drought Monitoring Work Group call. This is Dave Dubois down in Las Cruces. And let's do another roll call to see who's on the line.
Weather Service is here.
Plain Fleet, NRCS.
Joylyn and Emelita from FSA.
Curtis McFadden, Army Corps of Engineers, Albuquerque District.
Les Owen, NMDA.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, Victor Murphy, Weather Service, Southern Region Headquarters.
John Fleck from the Albuquerque Journal here in the room.
Great. Anybody? Somebody just called in?
Yes, this is Viva DeHaza calling from the NOAA NIDIS Program Office in Boulder, Colorado.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's everybody. All right, good. So we'll get started first with the National Weather Service report, and I believe Chuck Jones will take the lead on that.
Thanks, Dave. It's been a fun week or so here. We actually have got some rain, and I'll show you some totals here in a little bit. But so far this month, although the Southwest has been below normal, much of the rest of the state is either near normal or above to well above normal. In fact, there's parts of east central New Mexico that are 300 to 400% or more above normal for the month. Of course, we just have 4 days to go, so we may add a little bit more here too for Thursday and Friday into the weekend. So May is shaping up pretty good thanks to the rain from the 22nd to the 25th. And speaking of which, here may not be the easiest thing to see, but there are some rainfall totals here for this four-day period. Focus on the east. A lot of reports of 2, 3, even 2 or 3 4-inch reports, and I don't see it, but I believe there was a 5-inch somewhere. Yeah, down in Chavez County, 5.3 inches up northeast of Roswell. So very good rains. The river's filled up. In fact, you got pretty close on the Pecos for a little bit, but ended up with no flooding problems. So certainly it was a welcome rain. Everybody got some rain, at least a quarter to a half an inch over most of the state. Unfortunately, the far west, suffered the least amount. In fact, there were some places in southwest Catron County that didn't have any rain, and that's the area that has done poorly so far this month. Okay, so our last meeting we were looking at April. Here's what it ended up as. Kind of varied across the state. It was below normal, obviously, there in the northwest to the west central, and far east, also below normal. But central areas, and especially across the south, those areas were near to above normal. So we ended up, though, just 53% of normal and the 42nd driest on record. Nothing too outstanding about that, unfortunately. Again, another below normal month, as were January, February, and March. Looks like finally, though, May will end up above normal. If we just look at the calendar year so far, unfortunately, it's the 7th driest on record. Pretty dry, over 1.5 inches below normal so far, and just a statewide average of 41% of normal. If we go back a little farther to the water year, the water year, October 2013 through April 2014, 12th driest on record. It's pretty dry water year so far, almost 2.5 inches below normal. Statewide average, not much better than the yearly average at 53% of normal, just over half. Okay, now if we go back for the 12 consecutive months, suddenly it ends up not too far below normal, just over a half an inch below normal. But this is incorporating July and obviously September of last year. And those 2 months alone contributed to 57% of the 12-month period. So, and just, if we didn't have those good months in July and September, we would be a lot drier than what it shows here. 24 months, though, not too good. So the farther back we go, the less we're seeing evidence of the good rainfall we had in July, and especially the record-breaking September rainfall of last year. So suddenly now, in 24 months, we're the 8th driest on record, and almost 6.25 inches below normal. Same idea on the 36 month, 6th driest on record, basically 10 inches below normal. So 3-year period, we're still, obviously we're still a long-term drought. It's very significant. If we go back 4 and 5 years, we're the 5th driest and 6th driest on record. So still, the farther we go back, the drier we are. Long-term drought is still with us and probably will be for a while. Latest drought status is not looking very good either. Of course, this does not include the rain of this week or last week, but it probably is not going to change dramatically. But almost all the state is in some kind of a drought status. 87% or more in severe to exceptional drought, and then extreme to exceptional drought. Over 1/3 now is in that status. D3 and D4. All right. The 3-month change, you can see how it's gotten worse over the past 3 months. Most areas, one category, just deterioration. Some spots, even 2. Across portions of the east, you can see that. A little bit down in the southwest. So again, we're not looking too good currently for the drought status as we go through the rest of the spring. So let's look ahead. Here's something that I normally wouldn't show, but wanted to this time. Weekly sea surface temperatures, and this is from the 21st. You can see the actual temperatures in the top image and the anomalies in the bottom image. And the area that we're going to like to try to focus on is that Nino 3.4 region in the Central Pacific. If I can try it roughly in this area and through here, we just hit plus 0.5. Is that right, Victor?
Yeah, I think the weekly value for the most recent week was plus 0.5.
Right. And as we've seen, we continue the trend of the forecasters and the models now really strongly favoring an El Nino developing by this summer and continuing through the fall and the winter. So we still have an El Nino watch in effect, 65% developing over the summer and 80% by the fall. So the trend still supports an El Nino developing. Of course, we're not going to know the strength for a while, but it certainly looks encouraging at this point. The CPC June outlook for precipitation, part of the state, southern half, no real inclination, no trend toward anything other than equal chances for below, near, or above normal. But the northern third or so of the state suggesting a trend toward perhaps above normal precipitation. And then temperatures, pretty much somewhat of a departure really from what we normally see, which has been way, well above normal likelihood. For most of the state, we're just looking at equal chances of near, above, or below normal temperatures. Perhaps a slight trend toward above normal across the far eastern plains. If we go out to 3 months, precipitation, northwest half, trending toward above normal. And this would, of course, take us into a portion of the monsoon season. Southeast half, though, no clear trend other than just equal chances. And temperatures, either equal chances or the southeast, roughly half of the state, there's a tendency to support above normal temperatures in that region of the state. This is the CPC outlook for December through February, the official winter period. Very encouraging now. Tendency being above normal precipitation over the state, especially the southern half. And this is a fairly typical El Nino pattern and what we would expect to see. And the seasonal drought outlook, very encouraging as well. The drought improves over most of the state. It might even disappear up here centered around Santa Fe. Far eastern plains, they're not as optimistic, suggesting that it stays where it is or perhaps even gets worse. All right, what happens if El Nino comes back? I showed these last year. I wanted to show them again last month. And you know, if we get an El Nino to develop during the winter season, December through February, if we look at all the El Ninos since the early 1900s, this would support above normal precipitation. In fact, statewide average is 130%. And then if we go to the spring season, March, April, and May, very, very similar. 137% of normal for the statewide average. All right, these next three slides are wishful thinking. It does not reflect my feelings on if we get a moderate or a strong El Nino. Just something to show you guys. It's not an official forecast or anything like that. But, you know, if we were to get, we had a guy here, Andy Church, one of our forecasters here, did a lot of work on the El Nino during the summer monsoon period. And this would be, he did from July 1 through September 15th is the time period he used. And so the last 6 moderate to strong El Nino events, basically, you know, for the last, our official long-term average from 81 to 2010, we end up with anomalies, you know, considerably above normal, a half an inch to an inch, even a little bit more across the state. So it's encouraging, but, you know, keep in mind we haven't even officially have a El Nino episode yet. That's going to take several months, and you know it's got to develop pretty quick to have a significant impact on the monsoon season. It could help toward the end there in September, early October, toward above normal precipitation. And then again, this is just for wishful thinking people. A strong El Nino for the winter season across New Mexico, over 150% of normal. And the exact same thing for the spring, 157% of normal. So obviously, if it turns out to be a strong El Nino, we have a very good chance of having above normal precipitation. And again, especially across that southern half of the state. But again, that's not an official forecast. It's just something to throw out there to give people an idea of what could happen. And that's all I have. Open to question.
Any questions for
Oh,
Chuck?
yeah, I'm just wondering. I'm just curious. It looks like there's going to be some moisture coming in this weekend.
Well, yeah, it's actually going to start today, a little bit across the west, more so tomorrow and Friday, and then it starts to diminish over the weekend, but it certainly looks like another decent rain event coming up. And I haven't looked too much at the weather. I've been off, but it looked like this time the western portions might have a better chance of getting significant rainfall over a 3-4 day period. So that would add to the May total and make it certainly come in above normal.
Yeah. Okay.
Victor, did you have any early thoughts on what May would end up as, or?
Well, quite honestly, Chuck, I haven't looked at it. I mean, it's such a wide disparity. You know,
Yeah.
I guess look at your. I've been sort of busy on other projects myself last week or so. In fact, I was sort of going to school on your presentation as far as how much rain fell, and it looks like there's just a huge disparity. You know, from the eastern portions versus the southwestern portions.
Right.
I'm sure it'd be at least near normal,
Yeah.
if not above normal, for the entire state. And as Dave pointed out, I guess we can look at, you can go over it later on. As Dave pointed out, I guess the drought monitor for this week, has made some improvements.
Okay.
For the proposed drought monitor for this week, I should say.
Right.
All right, any more questions?
Yeah, just a quick FYI, Chuck. I'm looking at the week 2 experimental forecast from Esrel, which shows the deterministic QPF is for the day through 14, which I guess runs from June 4th through June 11th, and it shows New Mexico being pretty dry.
Okay.
Northeast quarter of the state gets maybe quarter inch or so. The rest of the state's bone dry.
Okay. Wow.
When is this for?
Week 2 time period from June 4th through June 11th.
I'm just curious, when do you know the strength of an El Nino? What time frame you will actually know when that will occur?
Well, the official rule, I believe, is that in order to be classified as an El Nino, you have to have, is it 3 consecutive months, Victor, of half a degree or more above normal? Or is it 5 months to officially classify it as an El Nino episode?
Yeah, I think for retrospective purposes, it's actually 5 consecutive months.
Yep. Yeah.
Of 0.5 degrees Celsius or above warmer than normal temperatures.
Right.
But we're right in the cusp right now, as Chuck pointed out. I mean, the most recent weekly sea surface temperature anomaly was plus 0.5, and we can monitor week by week or month by month in these calls, and as long as it stays, plus 0.05 or warmer, I guess you could say we're an El Nino. But whether it rings the bell on being an episode or not, it has to stay there for 5 consecutive months.
And then we need stronger anomalies for it to be as strong, which is what I think he was asking about. So
yeah, I mean, to be a moderate intensity event, it has to be plus 1.0 or greater. To be classified or considered as a strong event, it has to be plus 1.5 degrees Celsius or greater.
Right.
Okay, I appreciate that.
We're just now hitting the threshold, for weak El Nino, and just need to monitor it, in the weeks ahead, months ahead, as to how it, plays out.
So when could it start to affect us?
Well, if it keeps going and like it is now, as I mentioned, maybe late summer could have some impact. But certainly for the winter and spring, it would have the most significant impact if it were to develop as we go through the summer here.
Okay.
But and stay.
As Chuck showed in his slides, Chuck, maybe you might want to bring up your summertime slide, your summertime precip slide. As Chuck has shown, in the past, during El Nino events, the stronger the better, obviously. But there is a pretty strong signal for above normal precip in New Mexico during the July, August, September timeframe, for your monsoons, which is a positive. And then, as Chuck just pointed out, following that, as you go into the subsequent winter, the subsequent spring, once again, there's pretty strong correlation there between, El Nino events and above normal precip for New Mexico. Once again, the stronger the better. And it's really, really difficult right now to forecast the intensity of this thing. But in general, like I said, the stronger the better, and the warmer this thing gets, or the stronger it gets, the more apt New Mexico is to have A, an above normal, summertime monsoon precip, and then B, above normal, winter and springtime precip.
And
I think from that regard, things are looking up.
I believe this is based on the El Nino already being in existence.
Yeah, and I was going to say that. So, I mean, right now we're on track for it, and not all El Ninos present themselves so early in the year. So these years used in this composite were years in which we already had an established El Nino, like June, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with what Dee said. I mean, we're on track. I mean, here we are, last week of May, we're up to plus 0.5. So hopefully, by the time we're having our call this time next month, hopefully we'll be a couple degrees warmer than that. Excuse me, a couple of tenths degree warmer than that. Maybe plus 0.0, plus 0.7, plus 0.8, somewhere in there, trending up towards that moderate strength event. If we're at plus 0.0.8 or plus 0.9 at this time next month, I think we're looking pretty good to have this moderate strength event. Just like this, and then just like this map shows, the tendency for above normal precip. If we're still sitting at plus 0.5 or cooler than that at this time next month, then that would not be good.
All right. Any more questions for Chuck? Okay, thanks, Chuck. Is Raymond on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Raymond.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Great.
Well, I'll start the Rio Grande at for the storages for Toro, 10,331 acre feet. Heron, 106,983. Albano, 45,675. Abiquiu, 128, 486. Cochiti, 50,748. Elephant Butte, 375, 975. And Caballo, 27,082. Storages on the Pecos, Santa Rosa, 66,160. Sumner, 30,646. Brantley, 29,334. Now, the reason I was showing some, more interest in what the storms could do, it actually gave us a pretty good shot in the arm, both basins, which came in a nice time. It supplemented all the flows for everyone on the Rio Grande, and gave some nice high flows in the Pecos, a little bit of water in the reservoirs. So yeah, hopefully this one will do the same for us. We can use any help we can get. We're running pretty much on MRGCD on the Rio Grande. We're pretty much just running off the native so far. Haven't had to use any water from storage, so it's kind of holding up. We had some increase in flows coming from Colorado and a little bit from the Sangres from this rain, so that's helping out. They did start releasing from Elephant Butte and Caballo, and they plan on releasing until they run out, and they're kind of banking on the same, hoping that there'll be some rain flows and water coming into their reservoirs to continue a little further. On the Pecos, doing well. We have just a little bit of about 12 CFS coming out for the fish, and that's out of from the district, from the fallowing agreement. So 12 CFS right now is helping us keep it wet all the way to Acme. Of course, like I said, the storm brought the flows way up again. But we couldn't have done that the last few years with just 12 CFS. The groundwater was just totally shot from this extended drought. So, but districts are doing okay. They're watering below Brantley and Carlsbad, and FSID is watering. And so, and I can just just thought of kind of a funny thing, just a short little rain event. The flows coming into Santa Rosa were higher from that than we got from runoff. We didn't get one thing from runoff, and this little rain event brought more in than that did. So, anyways, that's what I have, unless anyone has any questions. No? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Raymond.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was interesting. You get more runoff from the rain than you get from the snowpack. But I think Wayne may be able to add a little more to that. Any questions for Raymond? Oh, I guess not. Okay.
All right, thank you.
I don't know. Before we get to, let's go ahead and go into Wayne's presentation with NRCS.
Okay. On the update.
Do you want this one or the other one, Wayne?
Yeah, the one that says update report, 5/28/14. Just touching on the runoff efficiency, I guess we'll call it this spring. We're actually seeing a pattern really similar to last year, which is surprising. Last year, we went into the snow season really dry, so there was no fall moisture. Soil moisture was really down, and we saw a really inefficient runoff. What we would have expected to come off based on snowpack, even less than that materialized for the most part. I didn't really expect that to happen quite as badly this year because we had the rainfall in September and then a little bit more moisture before we kind of went into the snow season in November. But we're kind of seeing the same thing happen. Sites have been melting out with basically no peaks in stream flow below the sites. So we're just not seeing very much actually hit the stream. If you look at this update report that I sent out, the main thing, snowpack for the most part is melted out or is well on the way to melting out. Even the high elevation sites that still have some snow left on them are well below normal. So the runoff that we're going to see from snowpack, at least in New Mexico, is pretty well done with nothing really to show for it. Southern Colorado still has some snowpack in place, and depending on how things go, we may see some benefits from that, but it's going to be a little later in the season. But looking at the precipitation for the water year on these high elevation sites, the northern mountains, Sangre de Cristos, have done okay. We're somewhere in the 80 to 90% range on most sites. That area is looking at about 81% of normal for the precip for the water year so far. Southern Colorado, the Upper Rio Grande is right about the same. We're looking at about 82% for the water year. But as you get on into New Mexico, a little further west, the Rio Chama, we're only almost 60% of normal. And then as you start going south, the Jemez is 55. The Gila, San Francisco, Mimbres, they're all down in the 40 to 45% range. The Pecos, that's one site, and it's 64%. But it's still, that's a high elevation site. You generally don't expect to see it that low. The Animas San Juan are kind of that same Southern Colorado setup. They're 85 to 90% of normal. And then Zuni Blue Water and Rio Hondo are both down in the 50 to 55%. So the southern two-thirds, basically, of New Mexico are all kind of 60% or less of normal for precip for the water year. That includes the snow that we received. Most of our peak snowpacks never hit about 60% of normal. So it was actually pretty sad. And then we saw the southern basins, the Gila, the Mimbres, those have been melted out basically since February. This year over in the Zunies, I drove into Rice Park March 1st, so that just, usually we're still snowmobiling in March, so that just kind of shows where we stand snowpack-wise. Really, the other report that I sent out is the whole West-wide combination report that includes all the drought monitor information, and I don't really see a need to run through it. It's going to kind of show, if you scroll through it, this is last week's report. That was the most recent one. It'll update tomorrow. The one from the 22nd, though, shows that temperatures have been near average. We're, kind of bouncing a little above, a little below for the state for the week prior to the 22nd. And precip was generally lower than normal. This next week's report will change that significantly. We'll see these cooler temperatures that we've seen over the last week with the rainfall that's come in. But the updated report that we just went through included this last week's storm. I pulled that report this morning, and we're still looking at those kind of 50 to 80 or 40 to 80% of normal for the water year precip. So even with the benefits of this last week's storm, we're still well below normal and could sure use some more moisture going into the summer. Unless you guys want me to, I'm not going to go through this whole other report because it's basically the same information that everybody else gets, and we've kind of already discussed where we stand snowpack-wise. So, anybody have questions?
It's not.
All right, thank you.
Did they? I guess one thing. Did they, for the signal? How far was that from the signal fire? Was there any impacts to that station?
From what I can tell, and I'm going to try to get down there hopefully next week as soon as they'll allow me access. From what I can tell, the fire burned across the Snowtell site, very similar to what we've seen the last few years. We've had about 4 or 5 sites in the last 3 years that have had the same thing happen. The fire appears to have burned across the site. On the first day it ignited. One of the hourly, we're only recording hourly temperatures there, and on I believe it was the 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, reading the temperature spiked from like 57 degrees up to 82 at the top of the hour, which kind of indicates the fire was probably passing or had just passed. But the station's still reporting, and everything seems to be kind of reading okay, so I don't think we're going to see significant damage. But like I say, I won't know until I can actually get in there, get clearance from Forest Service to get into the site, hopefully next week. But we've seen that almost identical thing happen at Sierra Blanca, Silver Creek Divide, McKnight, and Camazone over the last couple of years. So the fires have burned either really quickly across or just skirted past the sites, and we've been extremely lucky and haven't lost the site yet. So I think there's going to be fire effects, but and then the basin is going to see changes. The area around the Snowtell is going to see some pretty significant hydrologic changes over the next couple of years, but it looks like the site was spared.
That's some good news.
Yep.
Any more questions for Wayne? Well, Chuck, do you have the Anne-Marie? I don't know if she's on the line or not. I didn't hear. You can bring.
I do have the presentation, but I haven't looked at it.
Okay.
It's not all that exciting, it looks like. Obviously, nothing over 100%. Anybody have any comments on this? Or?
This is Wayne. One thing I would like to kind of mention on the stream flow conditions, I mentioned that we weren't really seeing peaks with the snowpack runoff. We're also melting out about probably between 4 and 6 weeks earlier than normal. So really the historic averages should be lower. You shouldn't be seeing the snowpack runoff effects yet. So the fact that we're not even coming up to near average flows with the snowpack runoff this early kind of shows how inefficient the runoff is being this year.
Yeah, not as bad as last year, but it's still surprising that for this year, considering we went into the winter with decent moisture in the soil.
Okay. So maybe can you email that out, Chuck, after the call?
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's move on to the Office State Engineer report. I think we have Molly in the office there, or John, or Julie.
Yes, we do.
This is Molly. I'm here, but Julie and I are going to be kind of alternating coming to this meeting, so I'll let her run through the presentation.
Okay. I'm going to just jump right into, I'm not going to go over the totals, but we've seen some improvement from last month in a lot of the reservoirs. Not a whole lot of improvement, but some. Navajo was up from last month. I'm just going to kind of scroll through them if anyone has specific questions. Santa Rosa is well above the average. So Sumner, Brantley, and Heron is it's doing better than it was last month, but it's still well below average. Last year, sorry, and actually last month. But it's doing better this month. I think the rain from last week helped because it's reflecting in these totals. On Albazo is still really low. Abiqui's doing a little better than last month as well. And Elfin Butte, we're using end of April totals here, which was right around 380, and I think that was pretty close to the numbers that we got from Raymond. Does anyone have any questions on any of the reservoir totals? That's all we have. If you don't have any questions.
All right. Thank you, Julie. All right. If there's no questions, let's move on to Les. And I think, Ryan, are you on there too, Ryan?
I'm not sure if Ryan's on or not, actually.
Okay.
I saw him earlier, but
okay.
Anyways, there's not a whole lot in the report. As you read through the comments from the different counties, there's been some rain, and folks are appreciating it unless they had just cut their hay and it's laying down, and then, the catch-22 gets you. But I think if you look at the range and pasture condition table in there, the kind of the take-home there's still 72% of the state is in very poor to poor range conditions. At the water releases were mentioned. Elephant Butte's allotment this year is a 6 acre inches, so it's certainly that irrigation district is not anywhere close to normal, and certainly behind what the other irrigation districts are able to provide their members. I included that departure from average NDVI map, and I almost didn't because it's kind of deceiving. There's a good portion of it that shows of the state that's showing, normal to above normal, the greener areas, and that certainly doesn't correspond to green on the ground. Those areas are the majority of the native grasses there are still dormant. So it's very deceiving. It does, however, pick up on the the high plains and the forested areas of the state that have a larger component of cool season grasses that haven't grained up yet. It does indicate those, but as an overall state picture, it's kind of a deceiving map. Beyond that, I don't really have any other specific things to report. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them, though. All right, thank you.
Les, have you gotten any indication of fallow land, either from last year or this coming year? Any reports or somebody doing any tallies of that?
I have not heard of any summaries of acres of fallow. Talking about irrigated lands, there's especially down in the like the Elephant Butte irrigation district, when your allotment is 6 acre inches and it's so expensive to get groundwater, and just driving around the valley, I mean, there certainly are some fields of significant amounts of acres that have been fallow. But no, short answer, no, I haven't seen any totals, but I'll see if I can find something though. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I've been seeing is just anecdotally, just folks have been driving around and seeing, excuse me, fallow areas. But yeah, it'd be great to see what at least from, if there was something from last year. Molly, did you guys with the state engineer keep track of any of that when you guys do your validation?
We don't have any numbers that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, just
some more kind of anecdotal information along those lines. There's been a lot of discussions in a few counties around the state about the special valuation for agricultural lands for property tax purposes, and due to the drought, there has been a lot of properties have been fallow for 2 or 3 or even more years now, and that's actually impacting the whether or not those properties qualify for the special valuation of property tax, and it's certainly creating some interesting conversations between tax assessors and property owners in certain counties around the state.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Are any other questions for Les? All right. So we have Joylyn and Emelita on the call, right?
Right.
All right, good. Welcome back. You have an update?
Thank you. Well, we don't really have a lot new. Just we'll report that with the new farm bill, they've opened up the livestock programs, and we're paying for 12 and 13, all based on the drought monitor. So other than that, we don't have a lot to report at this time. There's no new secretarial designations.
All right. Any questions for Joylyn or Emelita? Okay. Silence. Okay. What I want to do is a couple things I want to add to our call, and the first thing is to get kind of a consensus on the drought monitored categories. If there's any strong tendencies to move any of the D lines. And I emailed out fairly late, before this call a copy of the last week's drought monitor, and then the proposed draft 3 for this week. And it was mainly the big things that I think we would all, at least from my point of view, we all agree on is we had, especially through Chavez County with the 5 inches, there would be some improvement in that area, and even far northeast. And I think that was reflected in the draft 3 with the D4 eroding out of Curry and Quay and retreating to a portion of Union County. So what do you guys think about that? At least the eroding of the D4, and I think it matches up with the panhandle of Texas. That was one of the primary causes of that. I'll try to email that out earlier so we can discuss.
Sounds fine to me, Dave.
Yeah, hey David, this is Victor. I took a quick peek at the improvements for this week, and look pretty reasonable to me. And there's a bit. I mean, the only county that I think that has a D4 left in it has proposed in this week's drought monitor is extreme eastern Union County. So that whole area of D4 we're looking at right now is just, I guess, ends up being just a little sliver of D4 in Union County, which I guess is pretty good based on this past week's rains. Also, the improvements in, I guess, Chavez County and Lee County look pretty good too. Those are the big ticket items.
Yeah, and that was our concern for last month's call. Was over there in Quay, because we were looking at Tucumcari and those in this San Juan area, and I think they got, at least over at the Ag Science Center, over 2.5 or so inches, somewhere around there. But other than that, it's been really dry over there, because I'm hesitant to move a lot in that area because there really hasn't been any rains through, nothing significant the whole water year, and this was the only one, this one push. And in terms of the southwest, it's pretty dry. And actually, our station here is one of the driest. We're at 19% of normal for the water year in Las Cruces. And then going down to El Paso 27, Deming 25, Antelope Wells 21. So it's, I wouldn't do a lot. Then this is including any of the rains that we had over the 20s of this month. And I think the radar-based precip was showing some, but I don't know if it really did get any. But I think the prism reflects it better.
Yeah, we've been trying to use that radar-based precip for our new maps, and we've been a little frustrated with overestimates. So, and there is significant differences between that and prism, but we don't really know which one's right in the areas where we don't have observations.
Yeah, I had some time with Greg Story a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about that. So maybe, so I wouldn't move any. I wouldn't move anything on the southwest. I wouldn't see any improvements down there. So does anybody else see any other changes that you think needed?
Hey, Dave, this is Victor. I got to admit, I've been a little bit out of the loop. Like I said, I think the improvements in the eastern half of the state look pretty good. Didn't realize how little precip on the southwest part of the state. Do we need to look at any degradation there?
That's what I was even thinking of possibly.
Maybe those two D3 areas or something. And I don't know. I just tossed it out there.
It's possible. I know Hillsboro, if you go further up, that's 48%. That's over by just off of Elephant Butte, in Sierra County. So possibly, because we have there's a little bit of D0 I don't know if that's warranted throughout the southwest Otero with El Paso at 27%. And I don't know what Nielsen Gammon is proposing in El Paso and Hudspeth counties.
He's got status quo.
Okay, and I'd asked Jesse or somebody from El Paso, but they are short-staffed this morning. They couldn't be on the call, but I'm going to meet with them tomorrow over in their office. So we may make some suggestions for next week, since this is pretty late in the game for this week. Okay. Well, you can always email out anything to our list as any changes. And the second thing I want to do is to make this more useful to the Drought Monitor author is to have it early in the week instead of later in the week, either a Monday or a Tuesday. So that would be my suggestion for next call. And I was wondering if we could do it right at the end of the month, right before, because typically we see the monsoon, right at the beginning of July, and just seeing the changes right before we see that. So what are your thoughts on maybe like June 30th? That's a Monday. Are you guys available in Albuquerque?
Yeah, I could make that work. I was actually going to take it one step further and propose that in order for people to plan well ahead, having the meeting on the first Monday or Tuesday after the third Thursday when the product comes out. That's a mouthful, but I could see doing something like that. But in this case, it's a good point, Dave, about the monsoon just getting ready to kick in, and so you can see how we stand going into the monsoon.
So anybody have any heartburn with the 30th? I was gonna. That's a good point, Chuck. But I am on the airplane that morning. Not that I don't have to be here, but it just, at least for my schedule, it works for the 30th. Oh, I guess I don't hear anybody complaining. So let's do that. Let's put on the calendars June 30, 10 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time.
Sounds good.
Okay. 10 a.m. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll talk to you next month.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, everybody, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause that's true.